It is a little past the halfway point in the NFL regular season, and today I will be giving you guys my picks for the awards given at the end of the year, such as MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, etc. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing if you haven't already to the channel, we're growing really fast. Love to see it when you all subscribe. And the way that I will be doing these is I won't give you guys an outright, I think that this guy is the number one player. For example, I don't think that this guy is the number one MVP because, again, it's midway through the season. You can't definitively say that, in my opinion. So I'll be giving you guys two options that I think are the closest to that caliber of where they're at right now. All right, let's jump right into them. Starting with the MVP, and with our first choice here, we have the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. He has commanded this offense the best he has ever commanded a Ravens offense. And the best part about his game and getting this new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, from Georgia in college football is that they have made Lamar a more of a passing first quarterback. Not that he was solely run first before, but he was much more reliant on his run game before, and that was good for his stats, but that's not really good in terms of winning and losing crucial games. He really needs to be passing the ball a lot more, and that's what he's been doing, passing the ball, and he's got receivers to pass the ball to, and all around great execution, even without key players like J.K. Dobbins. Sorry. And, he is a clear choice for MVP. Had a little bit of a slip up game versus the Browns, but still his team managed to pull together 30 points even when Lamar was not having a great day. All right, my second, I was back and forth between Tua Tagovailoa and Patrick Mahomes. But one thing that really sets these two apart, among other things, is that Mahomes' wide receiver core is not good at all. If that wide receiver core was on any other team, I guarantee you they would not be scoring points, even with Travis Kelce. Players like Rashid Rice, Kadarius Toney, they're not great wide receivers. They're mid at their best, at their fullest capacity. Kadarius Toney's a fast receiver. Doesn't really have too much else. And players like Rashid Rice, lots of drops. And for Mahomes to be working with that and maneuvering that whole, room, the whole wide receiver room, really makes him stand out. And he's doing, all the sorts of Mahomes stuff. And I know it's the boring answer, but, it is the truth. So that's it for MVP. Next up, we have the Offensive Player of the Year, and my first choice for this is Tyreek Hill. He is already over 1,000 receiving yards, on pace for close to 2,000. He would break a record if he did that. He's already breaking records all over the place. And, along with being one of, if not the fastest wide receiver in the game, he has incredible wide receiver talent to go along with it. I mean, I could go on and on and on about everything that he does well. Does get in a little bit of trouble with his celebrations, but that aside, one of the most fundamentally sound players in the game. And my second choice is Christian McCaffrey, running back for the 49ers, and he has the most rushing yards at 747. And to go along with that, he has 339 receiving yards, which puts him over 1,000 yards total. And those receiving yards are really pivotal coming out of the backfield for the 49ers, and really one of the best offensive players in the game. And, he really does a whole lot to this offense. When he was hurt and he was banged up, they were losing games. 3-game stretch where he was banged up. I can't remember if he missed a game off the top of my head or not. Either way, if he did, still, he was banged up in that stretch. So, he really has an impact on this offense. Really helps bail out Brock Purdy. Moving on to Defensive Player of the Year, we have to reserve a spot here for TJ Watt, and he is primarily an edge rusher, but what he does that really sets him apart as a player, first, let's take a little side tangent here. When you're assessing Defensive Player of the Year, you're not asking Is he the defensive end of the year? Is he the defensive tackle of the year? No, he's the defensive player of the year. I think Micah Parsons fits in this one very well. I'll come back to him. But TJ Watt really, what sets him apart, going back to the original point, is that he's very, very good at what he does. And what he does is he evades double teams, chips, and just gets the quarterback in the most crucial moments. He has sacks all over the place, but when they need him the most, go back to the Ravens game. Ravens start a drive. They have a minute left, and they have Lamar Jackson to go down the field. He's going to get them in range. If TJ Watt does not get that sack on second or third down, they're probably going to go march down the field. TJ Watt does that. They don't have any timeouts. They can't stop the clock. The drive just derails. And TJ Watt has a number of those. Throughout his career, and most especially this year, he has wrecked about 3 or 4 games where they have just not been able to do anything because he sacked the quarterback at the end of a game. And what he does past that, he has the supreme athleticism to drop into coverage and play a slot wide receiver, play the quarterback's eyes. He watches Matthew Stafford's eyes in the Rams game, and he picks the ball off and runs down to the 5-yard line. You can't say that about any other edge rusher. Maybe since J.J. Watt, when he was able to do that, and players like James Harrison, who was able to drop back instinctively. TJ Watt is in a very select group when it comes to my main job is to rush the passer, but he's also able to come out of that and pick off quarterbacks and actually play coverage. Second player, it's more of a tie between Myles Garrett and between Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is supremely talented. He rushes the passer from both sides. He rushes the passer from up the middle, and he plays the run. And he also plays coverage, as a side note. But he's everywhere on the field. And that's what makes he's so versatile. And he's been running lately, as of this season, he has been rushing up the middle a lot, taking on tackles, taking on centers. And it's really impressive what he's doing. And then I say Myles Garrett because Myles Garrett is really, really, really good at what he does. And what he does is he lines up over the tackle and he just smokes the tackle and he goes and sacks the quarterback. It's very simple what Myles Garrett does, and he's very good at it. And his numbers are usually good, but this year, even better. He has 11 sacks through however many games they've played, like 9 or 10. And let's see, they've played 9 games. He's played 9 games, 11 sacks, supremely good at what he does, and those are my picks for Defensive Player of the Year. My coach of the year, first candidate, Mike Tomlin. He's taking a roster that does not play well through 3 quarters and just keeping them afloat enough to win games in the 4th quarter. And he, aside from the Texans game, in my opinion, he has had the team prepared for every single game. Mostly, the 49ers took them by surprise. 49ers took a lot of people by surprise in the first 6 or 7 weeks, I would say. And he has guided them to a 6-3 record so far. He's 5th in he's taken a wild card spot so far. The first wild card spot, 5th overall in the playoffs. And really, he's doing a tremendous job with the Steelers, as he always does, and always should be winning this award theoretically, but they got to give it to someone else, right? And my second pick, more interesting pick here, is Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans. He does not get enough credit for what his team is doing right now. He has taken a garbage roster, complete and utter garbage roster, and found a way to win, to not only have a winning record, but just be in the playoffs. Beat a powerhouse last week in the Cincinnati Bengals. Beat teams that they're not supposed to beat at all, and he's been able to do that with a terrible roster. And a lot of people just give CJ Stroud, oh, he's the one doing this. He's the one doing this. Well, he's got to have a coach back there. And DeMeco Ryans, his side of the ball is the defensive side of the ball. And if you're a coach, and your side of the ball is playing the best, then you're winning as a head coach. So and his side defensive side of the ball, and the defense has been playing really really well for the players that they have. They don't have very many names. When you look at the roster, you don't see a whole lot of names. A lot of draft picks that they've had that have kind of just evaporated and no one really hears anymore because the Texans last couple of years have been garbage. But this year, he's really coached them well. And, CJ Stroud has a lot to do with their success because he's been putting up fabulous numbers, but you got to give a lot of love to D'Amico Ryans. And moving to the Rookie of the Year awards, I'll do the offense and defense together here, one from each. And my offensive Rookie of the Year has to be CJ Stroud. It has to be. And that's because he's taken a garbage roster around him. I mean, he's throwing to players like Nico Collins and John Mechie. And obviously, he has his favorite receiver from the draft in Tank Dell. But he's working with an offensive line that has been banged up, running backs that really don't help him out. And, they're not really getting that much from the tight end spot either. And they got a bunch of no names on defense. And what do you do if you're CJ Stroud? A lot of quarterbacks would just lie down and, just drag themselves through the season, have an okay season. But CJ Stroud, earlier than people expected, takes the Texans. They're 5-4 now in a playoff contention. I think they're even tied for the last wild card spot, if I do recall. And he's been putting up astronomically good numbers. He's second in all the NFL in passing yards, and he is just blowing away numbers, and he's just blowing away everyone with the way that he's played. And so it has to be him. And an honorable mention would be Puka Nacua coming out of nowhere, BYU, excuse me, and really saving the Rams season for a little bit there with some clutch catches. And my defensive Rookie of the Year, Jalen Carter. Don't know how he slipped to the Eagles. That's a scam. No one should have allowed that. But the Eagles got their next Fletcher Cox, in Jalen Carter. Carter's way over 300 pounds from just off the top of my head. And, he's just been a beast up the middle. Still trying to get used to, NFL stamina, I would say, is the only thing with him. But other than that, he's just been right where he left off with the Georgia Bulldogs, and he's played very well. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. There's a little circle on the screen. You can just press it, and it subscribes you to the podcast. Make sure you click the bell to enable notifications for when my content drops. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See you then.